Hi everyone, it's Miss Haley again. Today's video is about the 4.4.2 checkup, so let's go ahead and get started with that. Alright, so hopefully you've already had some time to try all of these problems, and I'll just be going over them to kind of help clarify some things, or that way you can check your answers before you take your quiz. Alright, so with number 1, we have a parent function of f of x, a parent function of a parabola, which is x squared, and it looks like it's been shifted up. So we have to figure out how many, and then we have to figure out what that new equation would be. So normally we have that vertex of a parabola for the parent function is always at the origin. So it looks like it's been shifted up 1, 2, 3. So with a vertical shift, it's super easy. We just take that function, and then on the end, we can put our vertical shift, which is plus 3, so plus 3. All right, so that's the first one. The second one is the parent function of a cubic, which is x cubed. So even though it doesn't have a vertex, it does have that turning point we can kind of use as a reference. So with g of x, the dotted version of the cubic function, it looks like that turning point is down 2. So again, it's a vertical shift. So it makes writing our equation super easy. It'll be g of x equals x cubed, which is the original function. And then on the end, we'll have our vertical shift, which is down 2, so that's minus 2. Perfect. So vertical shifts are super easy. Hopefully you got those right. All right, so here we have some horizontal shift. So again, in number 3, we have the parent function of a parabola. So that vertex is normally on the origin. We have to see how far to the left it went. So it looks like it went left 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so g of x is going to be, remember with the horizontal shift, we tack on the horizontal shift inside the parentheses next to the x. And you kind of have to think oppositely. Remember that trick that I gave you that said don't trust your x's? You kind of have to think left is positive, right is negative, which is kind of opposite to what we're thinking. So if we move to the left by 4, it's either going to be x plus 4 or x minus 4. Think to yourself what the answer should be. Normally we would think to the left is minus, but since we have don't trust your x's, since we kind of have to think oppositely, it's going to be x plus 4 and then squared. All right, so that's number 3. Let's do number 4. Again, we're dealing with the parent function of a cubic. We have that turning point at the origin. It looks like it went to the right 1, 2. So that means g of x is going to be x either plus 2 or x minus 2. Since we move to the right, it's going to be x minus 2 and then cubed. Perfect. Hopefully those make sense. Those are horizontal shifts. Here again we have vertical and horizontal shifts, but with kind of more complicated equations. So with number 5, we have a quartic, which kind of looks like a parabola, but it has that little dimple in the middle, right? So even though we don't have that vertex, we do kind of have that little local or relative maximum, if you remember that. Okay, it looks like that maximum went down 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so vertical shift is super easy. We just take the original function, which is x to the 4th minus x squared, and then on the end we tack on that vertical shift. So we said it was down 4, so that's minus 4 on the end of that function. Number 6, we're dealing with a quintic, which is the parent function of x to the 5th. So a normal quintic function would go through the origin just like a cubic would, and would have that turning point at the origin again. So it looks like that turning point went to the right 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means g of x, since it's a horizontal shift, we have to put that in parentheses next to the x. Since it's to the right, it's going to be minus 4, and then to the 5th power. All right, hopefully those make sense. Let's move on. Number 7 and 8, we're combining horizontal and vertical shifts. If you watched my video from the other day, remember I like to do the horizontal shift first and then think about that vertical shift. So with number 7, again, we're dealing with a parabola, a quadratic function, so we can look at that vertex and see how far it went left and right, and then up and down. So it looks like the vertex went to the left 1, 2, so we're going to write to the side left 2, and then how many did it go up? It looks like it went up 1, 2, 3. Perfect. So I'm going to write up 3, and then that'll help me figure out my new function g of x. So g of x is going to be, let's think about that horizontal shift. Inside the parentheses, we're going to do either x plus 2 or x minus 2. Since it's to the left and you say don't trust your x's, it's going to be plus 2 squared. And on the very end of the function, we can tack on our vertical shift, which is plus 3 for up 3. All right. Now let's do number 8. Again, we're working with a parabola. Let's look at that vertex that starts at the origin. It looks like we went to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to write that to the side. Right 2. Remember, we do our horizontal shift first. Now we're going to do our vertical shift. So it looks like it went down 1. All right, so g of x is going to be, inside the parentheses, x to the right 2 means we're going to do minus 2 squared. And then on the end we have down 1. Down 1 means minus 1. All right, let's move on to the last 2 questions before you start your quiz. So here we don't have the graph, we only have the actual equation, okay? So let's look. It says we're shifted up 2 units to the left, and then 3 units up. Okay, so it gave it to us horizontal vertical, that's perfect. So let's call our new function h of x since our original is g of x. So again, let's do our horizontal first. That's always tacked onto the x. So the x in this case is in the denominator, so we're going to have x either plus 2 or x minus 2. It says we move to the left, so it's going to be x plus 2 and then squared. And then we can tack on our vertical shift to the end. 3 units up means plus 3. Perfect. Okay. Same process for number 10. Here's our original function g of x. Shifted 5 units to the right and then 2 units down. Okay, let's again call our new function h of x, just for clarity. So don't think about the 3 in this case. The 3 actually just changes the width of the parabola. So next to the x, inside of the parentheses, we have to do our horizontal shift. 5 units to the right, that's going to be minus 5 squared. And then before we do our vertical shift, don't forget about that plus 8 at the end of the equation. We have plus 8. Remember, we have to keep all those parts of the original and then shift. 2 units down means it's going to be minus 2 on the end. And then before we write our final answer, we have to figure out what's 8 minus 2. That's 6. So let's just simplify that. Our final equation is going to be h of x is 3 times x minus 5 and then plus 6. All right, so there's our final answer. If you forgot about the 8 on the end, that's okay. It's very normal. Just make sure you're including every part of the original in your horizontal and vertical shifts, and then simplify if need be. All right, so I hope that all made sense. I hope you feel ready to take your quiz. Make sure to reach out if you have any questions, and have a great day.